We want to welcome to the table now Anita Dunn. She served as senior advisor to President Biden until she left the White House last month. She's now senior advisor to Future Forward. That's a super PAC supporting Kamala Harris's campaign. Thanks so much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me this evening.
Yeah, of course. You have said that the speech that President Biden will deliver tonight, it will not be a farewell speech. He is going to make the case for a Harris presidency. Still, though, how is he feeling about this moment? This was not the convention he was expecting a month ago. He is someone who has served a public service for 50 years before he was forced out by Democratic leaders. How is he feeling about all this?
You know, he's going to come out tonight and make a speech that makes the case for Kamala Harris and for moving this country forward. He'll talk about the work he did running in 2019 to save the soul of the country, to fight for democracy. He'll talk about the fact that under his administration, democracy proved it could deliver for people, deliver real results. And now, in 2024, the fight is to preserve democracy by electing Kamala Harris and defeating Donald Trump. So he is a president very focused on the mission ahead, which is to elect Kamala Harris. And that's what you'll hear tonight.
Anita, you've gone from one of the president's closest advisors to now devoting yourself to getting Vice President Harris elected, running this pro-Harris super PAC. But she's walking a very difficult line right now and will for the next several weeks. She's running as a change candidate while as a sitting vice president to a president who has some pretty unpopular policies with a number of people in the American electorate. How would you advise her to navigate that moving forward on issues like immigration and the economy and the Middle East? How should she break or distance herself from the Biden policies to get more people on board?
You know, every vice president who runs for the presidency faces the challenge of moving on a continuum from loyalty to independence so that voters see that they're running with their own program and their own policies. You know, the vice president began that process last Friday. And of course, this is the most compressed election any of us can remember. But she went out and she made a speech where she clearly staked out positions that are Kamala Harris positions, not just Joe Biden positions, and made it clear that she is going to build on many of the pieces of the economic policy that the president's put in place to really renew and restore the middle class, but that she's got some things of her own. And that's what she needs to do between now and Election Day, is demonstrate to the American public what her presidency will be about. When she talks about moving the country forward, what does that mean?
You know, the transition from the Biden-Harris team to the Harris-Walz team has seemed, from the outside looking in, fairly seamless. Take us inside that process. What has the last month been like from where you sit?
You know, I think that the Biden-Harris team became the Harris-Walz team because there's a shared set of values and an absolute sense of mission that translated from one candidacy to the other. Don't forget, she's been our vice president. She was part of our ticket back in 2020. So this is a team that was already working for her and already excited about her. I give the vice president a lot of credit, and I give the president a lot of credit for how seamless this has been. And it's because of their partnership and also because they have made it clear this is what the stakes are. We have to defeat Donald Trump. We have to elect Kamala Harris.
Is it fair to say, then, that a Harris administration, if she wins, would in many ways be a continuation of the Biden presidency?
You know, I'm not sure that is fair to say because each administration has its own rhythms. It has its own agenda. I think that she'll answer that question better than I can for her. But at the end of the day, her job is to go out to the American public and make the case for when she says she's going to move the country forward. What does that mean? And she started that Friday by making it clear that her economics will be centered on growing the middle class, and that her belief is when we grow the middle class, we grow the economy. And that's the beginning of a process here.
Anita, can I ask you about President Biden, who you know so well and have for so long? And I spoke earlier today with Senator Chris Coons, who's also known him for many, many years.
Yes.
And I'd asked him, is there any part of the president that second-guessed his decision to step aside? And he said immediately, you know, we all second-guess our decisions at some point. I wonder if you had sensed that as well, and also how you would characterize this moment for the president. Is it bittersweet? Is it complicated? How would you describe it?
I think this is going to be an emotional evening in this hall. I think there's a lot of emotion that the delegates are going to feel, a lot of emotion that the guests are going to feel, and a lot of emotion the president will feel. But having said that, he is not a person who spends a lot of time second guessing, and he's been very clear since the day he announced he was no longer a candidate that he wanted his team to put together a plan, the way we always have 100-day plans in the White House. He wanted to see it. He wanted his agenda to get pushed forward. He wanted to know what he was going to be doing, and he wanted to know how we were going to get Kamala Harris elected. And he is really someone who, having gone through so much in his life, has the ability to focus on what is most important. And I believe that's what you're going to hear tonight, as a president who's focused on what's most important.
Even though there are Democrats who are very enthusiastic about the Harris-Walz ticket, there are also Democrats who take issue with the way that they think President Biden was treated. And Speaker Emerita Pelosi said today about the Democrats who disagreed with her public questioning of Joe Biden's electability, if they're upset, I'm sorry for them. That's a direct quote. How do you respond to that?
Oh, you know, the Speaker Emeritus has been very clear, her feelings on all of this. I think that at the moment, what Democrats really need to be doing is looking forward and moving forward with this ticket, because this is a close race and we cannot afford to lose. The stakes are too high for the American people. They're too high for all of the progress that the Biden-Harris administration has made since January 2021. And so I think the president and I think people around the president are focused on how do we get that job done.
We saw Vice President Harris take the stage there. We heard this room absolutely erupt into cheers for her. And we heard her very heartfelt way thank President Biden, saying, "Thank you, Joe." She said, "I want to thank you for your lifetime of service, for your leadership." She also said, "I want to thank you for all the work you'll continue to do." There's a passing of the torch here tonight. Does this make Kamala Harris now the leader of the Democratic Party? And if so, what role do you see President Biden playing going forward?
President Biden's going to do whatever helps Vice President Harris get elected. You know, add volunteer-in-chief to the list of jobs that he has now. I think, you know, that the Democratic nominee is kind of de facto the leader of the Democratic Party. But I think that, you know, in many ways, the president will continue to be a leader as well. And it speaks to their relationship that it's going to work out very well, the same way that the campaign has been able to transition so seamlessly, because they know each other, they trust each other, they love each other.
Anita Dunn, longtime Biden advisor, now senior advisor for Future Forward. Thanks so much for spending some time with us this evening.
Thank you for having me this evening. Thanks.
We appreciate it. Let's head